Hi, this is Chris Wiley with Wiley Development Group. Thanks for joining us today. Everybody's getting settled. Takes just a minute to get everybody here, arriving fashionably late. You should be able to see the slides on the screen. We have a couple panelists with us today who I'll introduce in a moment. Some are mobile, some are seated, and some on camera, some not. But thanks for playing along for a minute. I'm going to pause just 1 minute and mute my mic while I get something organized on my screens. Please stand by. Hi, this is Chris Wiley again with Wiley Development Group. Thanks for joining us today and taking an hour out of your time. We're going to have a quick moving session. We have a couple of panelists with us today. One of our sponsors, Ray Wiley and Kelly from Rapid Fire Pizza and Hothead Burritos are riding shotgun with us today. Darren Nicholson is joining us with iPorit, one of our strategic vendor partnerships. And Matt Platt, for those of you who are Matt Platt fans, from Driven Media Solutions, is also riding shotgun, I think dialed in from the car with his family on vacation. So we don't have any video for Matt today, but we appreciate him joining us. As you see the various topics on the screen, we're going to talk about, we'll walk through these 4 really exciting topics that are making a big difference in our business. But what I would like to do before we do that is do a quick recap of the 4 events. This event today, as the invitation indicated, is for people who might have missed one of the 4 prior events. We do events on the last Thursday of every month, and these are 4 folks that are in the franchise restaurant business, investors in the space, builder developers in the space, operators and area developers. Back in April, we did an event on social media marketing with Matt. We talked a lot about the way you can change your business, and what I like to say is social media has become our cable TV. As a super regional brand, we'll talk about those points. We're going to hit the high points and the things that you need to know as you try to embrace social media marketing in your business. And as Matt says, build a database, don't just spend money on advertising. In the prior event before that, back in March, Darren joined us to talk about self-pour alcohol and how that is changing the industry at a large. We talk about our results as we pioneered it in our fast casual restaurants. Both the Rapid Fire Pizza brand in stores that I own and operate, and the franchisor inspired by that, Ray and Kelly's team, have now pioneered that in a Rapid Fire Pizza corporate store and a Hothead Cantina corporate store. You can see the recordings for those prior events on our YouTube channel. They're easy to get to that way. The very first event we did in the series was about the tax incentives that were created. Technically, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act happened in the first quarter of 2018. It dates back to late 17. It essentially created some amazing incentives to never stop building stores. Now, Ray has always told me, never stop building stores. This thing takes it to another level. You can see the recording from that event from February 28th, also on our YouTube channel. And the battle for locations, our last event, most recent one in May, we talked about how a multi-brand strategy can get you prime retail locations in your current market. Stop turning away opportunities from local landlords and developers and realtors who are turning you on to leaks and leads because your current brand is landlocked and you can't get any more stores open. So with that, I'd like to kick off this whole event with an audience poll. We're going to do this 5 times during the course of the event today, just to make sure everybody's paying attention. And this is a warm-up poll, so if you could grab your mouse or your pointer or however you get there, help us understand who's in the audience today, what the perspective is out there, what best describes your perspective. Are you a single store operator? Are you a multi-store operator? Do you have a couple of brands that you run today like many of the area developers in our systems do? Or are you just completely new to the space, or maybe just an investor in the space, checking it out, kicking tires? Thanks, everybody. That was really quick. Everybody jumped right in. I see we have a pretty good mix. We got some folks, about a third of you are completely new to it. And so I'm not going to really change the direction in the comments today. Looks like we got some single store, some multi-store, multi-brand operators, a little bit of a mix of everybody. So everybody will see something that is worth taking away immediately to their day job as an owner-operator. So the first 15 minutes we're going to cover today is how the tax incentives created that I mentioned earlier can fuel your store development, literally why the government wants you to build more restaurants, create more jobs, and they'll allow you to not pay taxes on that money while you do it. Darren's going to help us with the why self-pour alcohol is revolutionizing fast casual. He's not so much fast casual as he's an arms dealer, right? He can help everybody do self-pour, but he's helping us do it in fast casual. And Darren will talk about his favorite thing, the tapestry of customers. And the third 15-minute segment is how to win at social media. Stop just advertising. Stop just spending money and renting other people's databases, doing direct mail. Of course we do direct mail. We love that stuff. But how to start building a client database that you can market to endlessly with permission. And the fourth topic, which Ray and Kelly are riding shotgun with us to talk about as the founders of, or co-founders of Rapid Fire Pizza and Hothead Burritos, is how to solve the 50-mile dilemma. I'm an operator. I have a team that helps us operate stores with sponsored owner-operators, and I get the 50-mile dilemma. We do not want any one of our folks driving more than an hour in one direction when a manager throws the keys on the roof, or tragedy strikes, or a car drives through the front of a store. So how a multi-brand strategy can get you prime locations in your current market is what that fourth segment is about. So I'm going to jump right in. We're going to have one more audience poll just to set up the tax incentive segment. So if you could all grab your mice, play along. How familiar are you folks with the tax incentives as it pertains to restaurants? Again, they changed materially in first quarter of 2018. And frankly, it was an improvement over past year's incentives. I see a couple of you guys have voted. Thank you for clicking in. Frankly, it was profound to us. We had our CPA that we love come to our franchise meetings and that sort of thing to get everybody briefed on it, because this stuff is game-changing, and I'm going to give you the high points so you know what it's really about. Thanks for playing along and clicking in. So I guess it's good that we're doing this today, because you guys aren't taking advantage of it based on the response to the poll. A few people not familiar, most people not familiar with it at all, and a few of you have heard about it. So let me jump into what it really is all about. And this was compliments of a CPA firm, one that we work with, another public one called Brady Ware. This is a simple example, and I love my little government sticker. I had to dig that up this morning. Let me make this really simple for you folks. If you are used to building restaurants and you are accustomed to using typical amortization, depreciation to, you're burning up your store over time, and yeah, you get the tax incentives for that. And maybe you're familiar with what's called Section 179. The Section 179 accelerated depreciation actually gave you kind of bonus credit for up to 50% of the investment in a store when you opened a new store. Well, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act expanded that to make it 100% tax incentive credit for every dollar used to open a store. So I want to be clear, this is an example to make the math easy. Our restaurants that we work with and the two brands that I'm involved in with Rapid Fire Pizza and Hothead Burrito range from, as low as $300,000 or $280,000 to get a Hothead open to maybe, $500,000 or more, and I'm building $1 million tap rooms. But this $500,000 example will kind of make it simple. If you opened a $500,000 restaurant and that was your total cost to outfit a white box, you're a leasehold tenant. By the way, you cannot own the building. This only works if you are a leasehold tenant. So if you lease a space and you invest $500,000 to get your QSR or fast casual concept up and running, and that thing nominally produces $100,000 a year in GAAP accounting net profit, then you will literally have an opportunity for that $500,000 investment to create $500,000 in write-off. And if you're making about $100,000 a year in net P&L income, you'll burn off $100,000 of it per year. Ultimately, you can protect the income from that restaurant for as long as 5 years. And that's because the government allows you to use it year one against any profit you earn, and then whatever is not used rolls over to year two. And I can tell you that as an operator with a bunch of restaurants, we are highly motivated to keep getting at least one store open per operator we invest with every year. And here's why. On the right-hand side, I've used a 3-store example over the course of 3 years. If you open one store each year, and it doesn't matter if you borrowed $499,000 of it. What matters is the capital investment into that restaurant gets you that $500,000 in write-off And if you just opened 3 stores over 3 years, that alone would create over $1 million in write-off. What the government wants you to do is build more stores and create more jobs, right? It's part of the whole system right now, massive incentives for it. And in my experience, under the power of a franchise brand like we have, you can finance stores with SBA loans or VA loans, or even worst case scenario, regular bank lines of credit. You can open stores with about 20% down. So worst case scenario for us, I can get a $500,000 restaurant open with $100,000 in cash, and that cash I could just recycle continuously year after year without having to pay taxes on it until I've outrun my $500,000 initial investment tax credit set. That is building on things you probably already know about. Again, the baseline here is amortization depreciation. That's part of how the government lets you, amortize off the useful life of a store. For those of you who ever have dealt with the tax side of it, and based on the responses today, people were not familiar with it, but the old Section 179 accelerated depreciation still works. It is the baseline. You use it first, and it can be up to half of your total first-year investment. And then you apply it, and you apply the bonus depreciation that comes from the Tax Cut and Jobs Act on top of that. By applying that on top of it, you get the effect of 100%. Every dollar you invest in capital investment to get a store open is credited as a write-down against the income you create, P&L net income. And we all know that, maybe you made $200,000, but by the time you get done with amortization, depreciation, and other allowable expenses, it may be down to $100,000. You literally take that money. You don't technically have to build another restaurant with it. But if you do, you get even more bonus depreciation. So that's how the program works. Here's the good part. We are in the business at Wiley Development Group as a franchisee of Rapid Fire Pizza and Hothead Burritos. We are out developing stores. We're a store development company. So we have all 3 layers of participants in our business. We have owner-operators, like my son is one example, we backed him with the cash to build stores. He's operating them. And as an operator, he gets direct pass-through of all these losses. He actually had a little challenge doing home financing because he hasn't had a positive income tax return for 3 years. That's a miracle. If you're a business owner, it's not such a miracle when you're trying to do a mortgage loan application. So thankfully, local bankers still love us. But owner-operators in the program get it straight through. Investors who are active in the business, such as Pete, my brother, and I. Pete's the head of marketing. He's the marketing director for Rapid Fire Pizza and Hothead Burritos. Together, we created Wiley Development as a store investment company. And we are active. We run the back office for Ross. We run oversight and finance and accounting and all that stuff, so he can concentrate on giving great customer service and great food quality and hiring and training staff. We also get direct pass-through of those losses, and I can tell you personally, it has been very, very beneficial, although I am absolutely determined to get my store open that we're planning for Findlay, Ohio right now. We're building another Rapid Fire Pizza, in this case a very large tap room with 60 taps of self-pour, which we'll talk about with Darren in a minute. We've got to get that thing open this year because it creates another wave of tax incentives, and that happens to be about $1 million project. We have passive investors who are invested with us. It started out with friends that has become interested parties who love the brand in the greater Ohio Valley area. They don't want to get behind the counter. They don't want windshield time, as some of our area developers call it, but they like the brand. They want to get in on the ride. So we have a structure for limited partners to get involved, and limited partners can also enjoy the tax incentives so long as two things. They will never get income without cash because of the way the system works, which is what we all fear as investors. Getting a K-1 that shows positive income, but you didn't get any money to pay the taxes. It alleviates that problem, number one. Number two, if you are a passive investor and you're invested in a little real estate, you're invested in some stores with us or on your own, maybe you're invested in multifamily properties. As long as you have passive income from other assets, the passive losses created during the first 3 years of operation can offset the passive income from the other sources. I cannot understate this. If you are in the business of trying to get returns on your money, not having to pay taxes on it is something that materially can double your rate of return. So I'm not a CPA. I'm not here to give you tax advice. I'm telling you the only way to get these incentives is to build restaurants and be a tenant and not own the buildings you're building the restaurants in. Pretty cool. We love it. I'm going to keep moving. It's 15 minutes in. One of the dilemmas of an operator who's trying to keep up on building a store a year after year after year, like us, back to the 50-mile dilemma. Well, solving the 50-mile dilemma, i.e., I don't want to drive more than an hour in one direction. Well, look what happens if you take, I'm just overlaying a collection of rapid-fire and hothead stores that happen to be in the Dayton, Ohio market. I could overlay the Chipotle stores and the Subway stores and other sandwich concepts. The point is, if you're multi-brand, you don't get landlocked. You can keep opening locations at appropriate distances from each other, right? Ray will tell you that he was in the Subway system as the stores started to crowd in together and get within walking distance of each other. We keep our stores at appropriate distance, but you can maintain a store a year pace. And with the optionality we'll talk about later about having pizza and Mexican and then whatever other concepts you're in, you can keep moving at a steady pace. So I would appeal to those of you in the audience, if you're not an operator, if you don't want the windshield time, if you can join us or consider joining us as a limited partner, as a joint venture limited partner. You get all the benefits we talked about. We fund the deals. It's our money. We lead the investments. You can join us as a limited partner without having to be exposed to the nitty-gritty of the business. You get a decent rate of return is what our objective is. You share the profits as the profits are created. But we invest in operators, and you can invest with us. We lead the deals, and we're all about building portfolios of stores. And for our limited partners, most want to invest within 50 miles, where they can drive and go see the restaurant, where they can have their name on the wall, and that sort of thing. We'll talk more about that later. But it's about building a portfolio of stores. I hope you got some great ideas out of that. The tax incentives, 100% of every dollar you invest can become a write-off. Keep opening stores every year. We're going to talk about how you can accomplish that next. With that, I have another poll for the audience. Make sure, sorry.
No, that's all right.
Sorry, Lena.
As we wrap that up, we're going to launch you into our second poll. So the tax incentive structurally is a way that you can make a lot of money or make it work for you. But if you want to accelerate your profit, there was a lot of questions after the self-pour alcohol segment, and we really want to talk about how it can really improve your profitability. So I'll turn it back over to Chris, and then I think Darren's going to help us out with that also. So see you guys.
Thanks, Elena. Let me jump into the poll. Sorry, I was moving a little fast there. Again, I'm going to guess that based on the responses earlier, we're not going to see a lot of experience in the space. But for those of you who have had experience operating, not drinking in restaurants, but actually owning and operating, what percentage of your sales were alcohol? Is this new to you? Is this something you have a lot of experience with? I know some of Darren's audience from iPort is invited, and they're bar operators. So we have a pretty good mix of folks out there today. Hey, thank you. Everybody's jumped in really quick. So let's move right on and see what everybody said. Less than 1%, by the way, is the historical experience we had in the Rapid Fire Pizza and Hothead Burritos brand when we had cold cases with bottled beer, wine, or cider behind the counters. Frankly, it was hardly worth having the liquor license or paying for the insurance to have it, but we believe that it caused mom and dad to choose our restaurant over somebody else's restaurant because they couldn't get a beer at McDonald's while the kids had dinner. Up to 15%, that's great. We see the 15 to 50 range. I'm guessing we have a couple of bar operators on here that are over 50. We're going to talk about how we see it happening in fast casual today. And for those of you with no experience at it, hopefully this will be enlightening as to what the options are. So with that, Darren, I'll be right back with a couple of questions for you. But let's start off with where this thing is. I remember in San Diego back in 2005-06, when self-pour wine really hit the market. You got a little prepaid credit card thing, and you stuck it in the machine, and it sucked the wine out of the bottle, and you got a $12 glass of wine, and you drank half of it and tried it out. Self-pour beer seemed to hit the market about 08, 09, 2010. And it was pioneered with these kind of crazy ideas of getting 2 beers at your table. Well, self-pour, the way we know it today, came about, Darren, am I right, about 2012? iPort hit the scene?
Yeah, 2012. The first beer wall was actually developed in 2014, which iPort did with one of our partners.
So it took a little while from idea, and another day you can hear the story of how one of the founders at iPort came up with the idea while trying to get a beer desperately at a yard house. But the way we know it today, it is still young. I think, Darren, I've been updating this slide month over month, but we're at 450 locations now.
About 450. Yep.
Yep.
And there's probably about 9,000, close to just under 10,000 self-serve taps in the market currently.
Got it. And that's including bar operators, restaurant operators, giant operators, the 100 taps, that kind of thing. What I love about it, and we'll get into the details in a second, is that unlike a Yard House or a BJ's where you got, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 taps and 2 bartenders that get you to it single-threaded, now 15 people at a time can go pour beer. And you can get to a beer and get it poured for yourself. So this market is still young. Here in Ohio, when we put it in Bowling Green, we had people driving 30 and 40 miles to come check us out. We'll talk about that in a minute. But there's maybe half dozen installations in the whole state at this point. It is very new. Now, with new comes early adopter challenges, right? We've taken our lumps, so to speak, learning how to put it in our stores. We pioneered it in one of my rapid fire pizza locations in a college town in Bowling Green, Ohio. Ray and the franchisor team did their first purpose-built hothead burritos or hothead Mexican grill and cantina in Dayton, Ohio, opened a little over a month ago, and it opened with 27 taps. And remarkably, it is the very first location in the nation to have self-pour liquor shots, thanks to some help from Darren's team. And we didn't know how famous we were, right? Nobody done it yet.
Right.
So we have half dozen taps of cocktails, pre-mixed margaritas, and that sort of thing. And then we retrofit the very first of the rapid fire pizza locations with this mid-store beer wall system and another half dozen or 5 taps of wine. What I really wanted to present by sharing this is that there are as many ways to implement this technology as there are people with an idea. Even within our own brand, we're experimenting a lot. I'll tell you what we've settled on in a minute and later in the conversation. But the key thing is this is not as simple as I just want to add some taps. These projects you're looking at are contractors, permitting, there's electricians, there's cabinetry people, there's HVAC and power and plumbing. So what we've done as a brand, now we've got our arms around it, right? We have 3 locations live. We're designing an additional 60 tap rapid fire pizza and tap room right now that my team is building with one of our operators in Findlay, Ohio. And we have learned how to get it done. And we have a partnership with iPorit to help support that. And part of the reason we've done that, and if you like these ideas, I would persuade you that you might want to consider doing it with somebody like us who has a year under our belt, a lot of practice, multiple venues, and we're learning. It's like building houses. You build your third one, you got to kind of figure it out, right? So one of the biggest benefits that we saw happen is that it changed the service area of the restaurants. Now, we already had a pretty broad draw area on the Rapid Fire Pizza brand. This is a map of data from my Bowling Green, Ohio area. We typically cite restaurants based on a 2-mile service area if it's in a metropolitan or suburban market, or a 5-mile service area if you're out in the country, which we are in Bowling Green. But what we saw from the heat maps of data created by the iPorit platform, which we'll talk in a second, is driven by the driver's licenses, which are scanned, giving us data that even your merchant services and card people won't give you. We found we were drawing from a market area of over 100,000 people and bringing people into town to check out the technology. We found over time that we've developed Darren, 4 months ago, we were at 10% of the customers each week were returning customers who love the technology. Obviously, they're coming back each week. I just got some data yesterday that indicated we're approaching 20% now of our customers each week we've had a bracelet before, they're coming back and doing it again. So Darren, could you talk just a little bit about the database and the size of the data that you guys have been pouring, 10 million ounces a month or something like that, that's helping make these decisions?
Yeah, so we've poured about 150 million ounces through our system. With that comes every single person who checks into our system essentially uses their driver's license. So we collect the gender, the age, the zip code, and then the really cool thing is we collect all that individual data of them sampling. And then we can aggregate and tie this data together to come up with what we're going to talk about next, sort of this tapestry of demographics and how you develop a beer wall and a beer wall strategy to make your concept successful. You know, Chris and I talk about this all the time. You don't just walk into a location and just throw in a beer wall and, you know, if I build it, they will come. It doesn't work that way. And one of the things that we work with Matt Plapp on, and in fact, iPorrit's working on a program with Matt Plapp, how to develop an audience to increase your, you know, your sales opportunities. And part of the data that we collect really helps with these strategies. We know with 8.5 million unique users of our system that there are 4 categories, the demographic categories. There's 2 female categories, 40 to 60-year-old female. She prefers wine. You know, she likes white wines, red wines, and cider. She's not price sensitive, and you need her to be part of the program, because if she can't participate, then he can't participate, and he's important. The second demographic in female is the millennial. As you get into your larger beer walls, you're going to have the sours, the ciders, you know, the really kind of funky taste that the younger females enjoy. Then on the left-hand corner, and this is really important, especially in the rapid-fired pizza brand, is the loyalist. He's normally drinking his dad's beer. He comes with his buddies after the card game or after, you know, the bowling tournament. And they're primarily drinking Bud Lights, Coors Lights, Miller Lights. Many people don't think, hey, if I have a nice beer wall for craft beer, I don't need to worry about some of these, what we call sticks. But they're really important to make sure that you're loyal.
Yeah, we found out the hard way. Pete, my brother, was an investor here at Wiley Development Group. We are craft beer guys. Pete, to this day, is a brewer. That's what he does for therapy on the weekends. And we did a craft beer wall, craft beer and cider. We were very holding tight to that. We rotate a third of the 18 taps every week. I think Pete told me last night we've served 250 beers or 250 different labels since October. I mean, we are really turning them fast. But we held out and did not put domestic beer, see-through beer as I call it, on the wall until Darren put up the red flag in January, February and said, guys, listen to me. Half of all the sales across all the iPort operators nationally in 2018 was basically Bud Light, right? And guess what we did? After much reluctance, we put on Bud Light in about March. It dragged our feet. It's 50% of sales. I was in the store yesterday filming promotional videos, and 2 folks from our local community bank came in, bank manager, assistant manager. The assistant manager literally has been eating our gluten-free pizza because she's celiac for the last 3 months, but never tried the beer wall until her boss said, hey, where can we go get a beer after work? She brought him to see the beer wall. She actually never tried it because she thought it was about craft beer. And she was so excited to see, Ultra, Michelob Ultra, and Bud Light, and he was going to town on the rotators. He was the craft beer guy.
And that's our primary focus. He's the explorer. He's across those 8.5 million users and over 150 million ounces poured. The explorer, he's 32 years old. He's a male. He goes to the beer wall 5.5 times, pours 4.7 ounces per pour. He'll spend $14.15 when he's in a location. So going back to this demographics, it's critical that you understand your demographic, you understand how the food element fits with the demographic, and then you ensure that you have a strategy, not only a pricing, but a product strategy to meet that demographic that you're essentially serving in your
targeting. Well, and day in and day out, we're looking at these numbers, right? We see the average pour. Like I don't have the pictures today, but I saw flight glasses, flight trays in one of Darren's other operators. We immediately put flight trays in our stores. The cantina, ironically, people, sorry, I'm watching the clock, started grabbing flight trays. People are putting flights of margaritas, for goodness sake. They didn't even use them for the beers. But the flight trays were a way we recognize the average pour size is 3.9 ounces. That's in my restaurant in Bowling Green. It's a little different down in the cantina. And we were seeing, sorry, I got that backwards. Yeah, that's the average pour size. But the number of beers tried.
Right.
Yeah, that's the new patrons. So we're seeing a lot of testing, a lot of trying. People are pouring small portions, 3 or 4 ounces. So we put the flight glasses out there and let them pour 3 or 4 samples. But also the number of beers, and as I went out and I was entered, this is not Darren's data, this is mine. We did our first store at 18 taps. We have a store at about 25 and one at 27, which are owned by the franchisor's corporate team. And what we've seen is the more taps you have, the more taps the patron will try during each visit. They'll settle on something and drink it, but the more you have, the more they try. If they pour 4 ounces out of 5 taps, you just sold 20 ounces of beer. If you're in the business like us, we were going to talk about dollar per ticket, where our typical dollar per ticket, with pizzas at, choose anything you want for $8 or about $8, and our, the burritos and tacos and quesadillas and all that sort of thing are also private in that same range. To add on $12 worth of beer is a material lift to the business. Now, in my stores, we're seeing that the alcohol is maybe 5% of sales. In the cantina, again, very early. This is not, system-wide data. We're just experimenting, but we're seeing it hover around 10% of sales. That is a big change for us. And when I went out and interviewed a lot of iPort operators, I found that people with 40 or 60 taps were seeing even higher numbers, 4.9 or 5.7 taps pulled, right? Pours per customer, because they had more to choose from. So this tapestry is really important. Understanding is part of it. Part of the reason for our partnership with Darren is our ability to manage this centrally. Pete buys all the beer centrally for all of our locations, and so we understand the sell-through. And again, this is a big part of this. I would challenge you to think about this. Sorry, I got ahead one. This is a big change to a restaurant, right? Adding this on the back of a general manager, on the back of a franchisee, is an entirely new food product, an entirely new category. It's something new to promote. We'll talk about promoting it during social media in just a second. But if you join us as a joint venture market partner, we are looking for existing operators that have multiple stores in a market. We have a guy joining us, for example, from the Chicagoland market, who's in the Subway space. We have guys in other markets coming over from steakhouse chains or coming over from ice cream or whatever it might be. But if you have a multi-store strategy or possibly even multi-brand, and you come over to join with us, we'll equip you with everything we've learned in the self-pour space, which is still very much pioneering. We're still early adopters, but we're not asking people to take it on and take the chance on their own. We, as Wiley Development Group, will co-fund these opportunities, and you operate. If you're an experienced operator, you already got supervisors running around that market. Our goal is to help you build 3 to 5 stores instead of trying out 1 or 2. We'll take the risk. We're all in on this, and we're looking for a partnership, again, with these seasoned operators, and we're applying everything we know. I meet a lot of operators that are 4 and 5 unit, 4, 5, 10, 20 store operators that, frankly, have just gone location to location over the years. We are taking a very structured approach at siting stores, at the demographics and the analysis. And frankly, anybody who's in the space knows there's more art than science. You can't predict reliably a good location from a bad location, but you can certainly rule out bad locations as best you can. So we're here to partner. We're here to co-fund these deals and operate with joint venture market partners. And we have learned a lot about how to do self-pour alcohol if you're into the space.
Thanks, Chris. So I think what we've learned about is, one, not all industries are really interesting to invest in, but I think what we learned in part 1 is the tax incentives around restaurant development are really interesting. So we established that structurally. 2, to increase potential sales and profit, we understand why self-pour alcohol and partnering with Darren is really exciting to us. But 3, what we're stepping into, and again, this was another really meaty topic we got a lot of follow-up questions on, is that it's not just advertising. We know if any one of you in this audience that's a restaurateur knows that you spend a ton of money on advertising, you don't know where it goes all the time. But we're really focused on building a client database. So that's where we're going now. When you look at all the different levers in your business, advertising is a huge chunk of change. And so we're trying to make sure that if you're going to spend that money, it's going to be utilized the best way. So I'll send it back to you, Chris.
Thanks, Lena. And I have another poll for the audience. I know a lot of people are dabbling in social media. We have certainly learned a lot about it. If you could, everybody grab your mouse. We'll make sure everybody's still awake. I'm not putting you to sleep out there. What type of social media do you utilize the most in your business today? What kind of experience are you having? And I can't really ask you interactively what's working and what's not. But we appreciate you guys jumping in. I see about 1/3 of the people are playing with Instagram. Thanks for playing along. I got some Twitter folks out there. A couple more votes coming in. A little bit of Facebook. Matt will like that. Matt's got a lot to say about Facebook. A few more Facebook. Well, listen, thanks everybody for jumping in on the poll. We have learned more about Facebook than I ever cared to know, and frankly, I'd never logged into it before last October. I'm only beginning to learn about Instagram, and I hear great things about it. I'm trying to learn more. Twitter is frankly new to me, but YouTube is something we've done some experimentation with. What I want to talk about today is what we're doing with Matt Plapp and Driven Media Solutions. Matt, I believe, is rolling in the car. Just a second, I'll throw Matt on the line. What I want to do is a quick setup. Social media, for most of the folks who are attending this event today, probably came because of a Facebook ad. By the way, we've got a lot of background noise. That might be Matt or Ray. But the social media we use it in conjunction with email. We use it in conjunction with direct mail. But if you came to this event today, chances are you saw my cheesy little video I did. Thanks for looking. We had 60,000 people reach by it, 40,000 views. You know, it auto-ran when they went by when you were trying to swipe past it because it was annoying. But it's telling that we had, hey guys, one of you has a mic open and really loud background noise. So we had about 400 people actually watch 3 minutes of the 9-minute video. That tells me that those people, and maybe it's some of you in this audience, are interested. I'm going to tell you why this matters to restaurant patrons in a second. But about 200 people watched all 9 minutes of the promo video, right? Well, every month we're getting 50 or 60,000 people to see the promo video, and a lot of people registered and a bunch of people to the events. The same thing applies in our business. In our restaurant business, because we are putting videos up, we've learned from Matt. I'm going to let Matt talk about that in just a second. We've learned how to dramatically change the way people interact with us. And people who watch your videos, just like in my example of if people watched all the first 3 minutes or the first 9 minutes, they must be interested in the subject matter. They must like our food or they would have just clicked on by. So, Matt, could you talk just a little bit about how we've had, essentially by my math, about 1,000% increase in our organic views and how we're accomplishing that and why video matters?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me on, Chris. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in a little shopping plaza. I'm trying to get into a quiet area in the middle of Carmel by the sea down in the West Coast on the 16-day road trip down the coast. So,
nice.
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, it's great to see the interaction there with people with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter surprises me. You don't see that a whole lot. It's like any social media. If you find a way to really make a connection with people, have conversations, and direct them to where you want them to go, any of them will work. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube are obviously the top three that every business should be using, especially Facebook and Instagram ads. But with regards to your question, your comment about the 1,000% increase is the reason it's working better is because you're using organically produced videos. What I mean by that is you're not out in a studio producing a video in a camera studio with perfect lighting, perfect angles, you know, perfect looking food and actors. You're using stuff from the store and people stop to scroll on that. And when Facebook, what people don't realize a lot of times with social media, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, the algorithm is all automated. There's not a person in a room going, oh, I'm going to punish this social media page because they don't like their content. It's an algorithm. It's almost equivalent to, imagine if you get the Sunday paper, if people still do. I don't know. Maybe that's a poll you ought to have also. But imagine if you get the Sunday paper and they're flipping through that paper, and every time they stop and read a headline, the algorithm in that paper says, okay, Matt Plapp read this headline. Well, then they read the subheadline. Matt Plapp read the subheadline. Oh, Matt Plapp read the whole article. He clicked the link. That's what social media and organic reach is all about, is that if Facebook, when you're on your phone, if you can imagine yourself right now, if everybody goes to their phone and goes to Facebook or Instagram and starts scrolling, what you scroll by gets what's called negative reaction in Facebook's algorithm. It has a negative reaction that, okay, that didn't get Matt to stop. We're going to show him less of that. And you look at that from a business standpoint, if what you're posting on social media, let's say you have 1,000 followers, and let's say on day one, all 1,000 followers see every post that you make. So let's say Rapid Fire Bowling Green starts up day one, 1,000 followers, makes a Facebook post, and let's just say for the heck of it, 1,000 people see it. Well, then day two, You make a worse Facebook post, and 1,000 people, 800 of them scroll by. Well, Facebook's algorithm sees that negative. It's called negative feedback, and they go, okay, these people didn't stop. Why not? And if they keep not stopping, they stop showing your content. They stop showing your content, your 1,000 people go down to 1 or 2. And so that's why you've got to have content that gets people stopping the scroll. And the big thing, like I always preach, like I'm doing an iPort webinar series with Darren and Emily for his team. We have one today in a few hours. And one thing we talked about a few weeks ago was when you're making these posts, you need to have a couple elements. Number one, organic, natural, good content. Number two, a long enough post that requires somebody to click the see more button in your text so that it expands, because it gives Facebook positive feedback like, hey, Matt Platt stopped on this post. Matt Platt clicked the see more to see the rest of the text on this post. He's now got 2 things to help. We're going to show this post to more people who look like Matt that should see this. And so when more people interact with your content that look like your ideal customers, Facebook and Instagram show it to more people that look like them. And one thing a lot of people don't realize is that the reason Facebook and Instagram ads, which is actually our webinar topic today with iPort, the reason they're so powerful is that every single one of us, even the people that aren't on Facebook or Instagram, you have what's called a ghost profile, but you have about 100,000 metrics that are behind your profile. Things you've clicked, you've liked, you've commented on, you've searched, you've checked in at, you name it, it's in there. And that allows Facebook and Instagram to target you like never before. And that's one of the reasons you saw the last election, our politicians all over social media ads, because they realized, oh my gosh, I can get Susie, who lives down the street at this address, who likes an ad that's got a red background versus green to click. I'm going to find her friends. So that's, long story short, I guess maybe a short story long. That's how your organic views are going up, because you're putting content that stops the scroll.
Yep, and what I would describe, I put a graphic up, Matt, which was the video insights for a Bowling Green store. And, when we ran this, 9 months ago, it was 20, 30, 40 views. Our corporate team at the franchisor does an excellent job of putting amazing photographs of, pizza and burritos and, people having fun and all that sort of thing, and occasional videos. But when we started, you goaded us into it. When we started shooting, I'll call them ghetto videos, quickie walks through in the store. Hey, somebody make me a burrito. Somebody make me a calzone. And we started posting those. Today, we have a team member who posted 28 stores as a part of an expanded pilot. And we literally, by doing, not overthinking it, simple, faces in the video, somebody making a piece of food, half of this is just getting content up there that people see your brand. I said earlier that this is our cable TV. I realized that the videos got 400, 700, 800, or 2,000 views, but what happened is the still photography from corporate, which was great photographs, food porn as we playfully call it, they all of a sudden got 500, 700 views, which is evidence of what Matt said. The algorithms are telling Facebook, hey, people are looking at this website. Let's show whatever they show to other people and see what happens. So then it goes to the next level. So you're shooting this fun, organic content. Well, Matt, last week on the when I was a panelist with you, we talked about, or on the iPort training, we talked about getting a simple little phone in each store. By the way, we got a lot of background again all of a sudden.
Yeah, I'm pretty quiet here, but
no worries. But what we talked about is getting a schedule. On Mondays, have your store manager do a 30-second post and announce the special of the week. On Tuesdays, announce birthdays in the crew. Who got hired this week, all that kind of fun stuff. And what we found is that randomly some videos take off, especially pictures with customers in them when you get their permission, and with employees in them. Employee interviews do fantastically well because they share it with their family, and that shares it with the rest of the family. And then Facebook says, oh my gosh, that's an interesting video. We don't know why. It's bots doing the work. So point is, it starts out by post, and then you have to get a system. Folks, this is not a hobby. You can't do it a little bit. It's like catering. You're either in the catering business or you're not. But if you get into it, then you go to the next level. Matt, I want to talk about the BOGO program, have you describe it, but here's the setup. Those organic posts, organic meaning we shot it with an iPhone and we put a little cool header on it. We typed in the text. It got people to interact with it. Now we have an audience of video watchers. We have an audience of people in proximity to stores that are interested in our stuff. Matt, tell it how the concept of how the BOGO program works and the permission marketing concept and why it's really taking traction.
Yeah, so can you hear me okay now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so the one thing that to hit on before we go into that is the value of that audience. So I want you to picture this. So you've got a restaurant. Imagine if every time somebody drove by your restaurant that something triggered and said, hey, that person looked at my sign, or that person looked at my sign for 10 seconds, or that person looked at my sign, walked in my door. Well, imagine if this was a TV commercial. And this is why I love digital marketing, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, especially, is that you put a video up. Let's imagine you did a video commercial during the Super Bowl. And I always use Doritos as an example. I guess I like Doritos too much. But let's imagine I see a Doritos commercial during the Super Bowl. And I look at my wife and go, man, I love Doritos. That new flavor looks great. And maybe I go to their website because of it. And maybe I look it up on Facebook. Well, imagine if Doritos knew that. And so the next day they could show me a video like, hey, Matt, you love our Doritos and this new flavor. Click here to get a coupon, or click here to see where you can buy them. Well, the problem is you can't do that except for digital media. Like your videos you talked about, we can go in and create custom audiences and say, look, these are 10 videos that Rapid Fired Pizza Bowling Green put up, or the Cantina put up. And these people, let's say it's average video is a minute long. We don't want to go up to people who watch 3 seconds or 5 seconds. I want the people who watch 30 seconds. Because if you watch 30 seconds, number one, you know my brand. There's 3 things in marketing that help you succeed: know, like, and trust. You know my brand if you just watch 30 seconds of a minute video. You probably like my brand if you spent that much time with it. And if I can keep showing you content that you like, I'll build that trust. And so what we do is, with the BOGO program you're talking about, is we use that social media engagement to build custom audiences that allow us to put really specific social media ads in front of them and get them to take an action. So they watched a couple videos with the Cantina. We just did that 2 months ago with the Cantina when it opened up. We ran a bunch of Import beer videos. We did a couple videos with Pete walking through the restaurant. Him and I did an interview. We then ran like 10 different versions of that, cutting clips out, put it here to get people that like beer, that follow beer brands around the area, to get them to watch the video. And then when they watch a certain amount of the video, they're delivered an ad for a buy one, get one free promotion. Hey, here's a buy one, get one free burrito. They then click or comment on that ad. They comment on it, it goes to Messenger. They click on the link, it goes to Messenger. Now Facebook sees that, okay, this person saw this video, they interacted with it. They then saw this ad, and they not only clicked the link, but went to Messenger, which Facebook and Instagram love, because Messenger, which is why it's called Messenger now, not Facebook, because Instagram will integrate very soon. But they can go into Messenger from Instagram by clicking, Facebook by commenting or clicking. Now we build an audience in there. They give us subscription-based permission. They give us an email address. We then deliver a promotion to them. That is the ultimate for social media, that Facebook and Instagram can look at this and go, hey, that's why we're getting 30 to 40% redemptions, because we're getting such targeted people. Every time we run these ads, and every time somebody opts in, every day, every 5 minutes, in fact, that custom audience that we use to target our social media ads is updated every 5 minutes. Well, when somebody opts
and we're not. Yeah, and Matt, I was just pulling up your dashboard. We're a little tight on time, and you're going to the point, which is redemptions. And we are, rather than spending our ad money just on a big blanket in the audience like you do with a mail drop, and we are huge believers in direct mail, but the mail drop blankets an audience. Here, we're getting tighter and tighter focused on the customers who show interest in our products and follow our pages, and now we target them by inviting them into our rewards program. And the acquisition cost of that versus doing a mail drop and getting the customer to come through the door, we're seeing it in the $4 to $7 or $8 range, whereas in direct mail and traditional marketing methods, we saw that redemption rate of the customer through the door at substantially higher cost. So one thing about all of this is it's trackable, it's measurable, and we can adjust continually. We have 28 stores in the program now. We're continually revising it with help from Matt's team. And the key to this is that it is highly, highly active process. Continuous daily content, continuous refinement of the offers. And by the way, we're not giving away the store. The promos start with the buy one, get one free coupon and wean their way down to just inform them about the limited time offer that's not discounted and other fun things.
Hey, Chris,
Matt, go ahead.
my final point on this, I know we got to wrap up, is that The
Yep.
beautiful thing about that is that direct mail piece, that person gets it. Let's say it works. Well, next month you got to write a check to the direct mail company again because it's their audience. You just rented their audience. In this case, that acquisition cost you showed on the prior screen of $4 and some change, that's what you spent to acquire that person's info. Facebook Messenger, email address, retarget on social media. You don't have to spend a penny to get them next time. So for example, if you got 5,000 people in the program and 3,000 are active, well, next month we want to drive them back. We send a message, we send an email. Some of them we do text. You have no more cost to it. It's your database. You're not renting it anymore. You're spending money on social media to grow a database that you own, so you don't have to rent somebody else's over and over.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about it, but the response rates of sending those messenger alerts about this week's special are open rates of 90%, click-through rates to the promotion of 70%, and action rates of coming through the door of 30%, as compared with email, which is 12% open rates, 3% click-through rates, and 0.5% redemption rates. I would sum this up with the key to the success is continuous content production. It took us 6 months to figure this out and get it going and dedicate staff to it. This is not a hobby, as I said earlier. And I want to wrap up with this idea, one of the collateral benefits, we all struggle with reviews. Only angry, grouchy people do reviews if left to their own devices, I like to say. But we've found that if you are exercising the principle of reciprocation, you're engaging a social media active audience. That social media active audience, if you give them something, buy one, get one free coupon, and they are happy with the service delivered by your team, they have a much higher than normal propensity to leave positive reviews, and those have a propensity to drive the bad ones off the page. We'll send out the slides as a handout for any of you who attended, so I won't read this slide to you. With that, we are crammed a little bit in this last segment on locations. I want to get Ray and Kelly in for a couple of comments. Thanks, Matt, for joining us, and let's make an invitation to those of you who are on the call who are thinking of a franchise concept, not necessarily already a multi-unit or multi-brand operator, not necessarily an investor in the space, but if you've been operating in the restaurant space and you're considering a franchise brand, all of the things we're talking about are what we at Wiley Development Group deliver to our sponsored owner-operator partners. Ray and Kelly and the franchisor team, they do all the things that a franchisor does. They provide marketing support and location selection support and all those sort of things. But we take it to the next level. We know that to be an owner-operator, to be a franchisee, is a consuming job on the ground, in the restaurant, dealing with staffing, dealing with, making food and cleanliness and those sort of things. We deliver to our sponsored owner-operators who may not have all the cash they need. They may not have the credit to get the loan, but they are willing to get behind the counter, take the windshield time and operate the business. We will fund these operators, and if you're a limited partner looking at the space, you can help fund them with us, but we lead the deals. We're looking for people to operate those stores, and we back them up with cash and the marketing expertise to take the game to the next level at a local store operations.
Thanks, Chris. So now, and again, we're tight on time, and we thank you because we've had a lot of great content. But again, structurally on tax incentives, the environment is good to be investing in stores. We talked about profit enhanceability with the self-pour alcohol opportunity, and then around marketing, which we know is a huge cost to those of you that are operating restaurants. Well, another huge cost, and what Ray Wiley will tell you is one of the biggest problems is getting the right location and retail location. So we're going to talk about that and how our strategy helps you achieve that. So go ahead, Chris.
All right, one last poll real quick. I know everybody's still here. Thank you for playing along. We'll go about 5-7 minutes up to the top of the hour. But to set that up real quick, what is the biggest limiting factor in your business? Again, I know some of you folks are just new to the space or just looking at it, but I get some impression that people are operating stores or bars. What's the biggest holdup on your growth? What's keeping you from building more stores faster or expanding your business in the space? I want to wake everybody back up. Hopefully, we can put you to sleep. Thank you for grabbing the mouses. I see we got a little bit of everything. Thank you for jumping in. Some are capital. Some are just no limits, just looking for the right brand to get involved with. Again, thanks for jumping in on this. I see we got a little bit of it all, right? A lot of times we meet operators that just don't have the bandwidth to go build stores. They have the people to operate them, but I've met Subway guys, for example, who never actually built a restaurant, that the development agents built all the restaurants, and they just received the keys and got a mortgage for them. The no capital available but seasoned operator is some type of person we talk to a lot, which is why we developed the sponsored owner-operator program and the limited partnership program to match with us. And for those of you who aren't limited by those capacities and are really trying to sort out which brand to consider, hopefully we're making an appeal to why our brands might make sense for you. With that, I want to talk about the multi-brand strategy. So as long as I've been around Ray, we went our separate ways many years ago. I went into banking and capital markets and finance. We had a tour of duty where we developed Skyline Chili locations back in the late 80s, if anybody's been to Cincinnati. But I went back to consulting. Ray went into Subway. Ray later developed Hothead Burritos after almost 20 years at Subway. He built Hothead to be as easy to operate as the Subway so that he could attract over his Subway comrades and really get into the business. Well, he discovered, and Ray, I would have you talk about this for a second if you're still on the line with us. Thank you. What happened when you put your toe in the water and started to launch the Hothead brand and started putting Hotheads next to old Subways? We'll see if Ray made it this far. I'm not sure if he's still on the line.
Sorry about that, Chris. Hey,
you're good.
We're just headed through the mountains here. We're probably going to have a little bit of reception issue.
Okay.
But I'm sorry. Can you repeat your question?
Well, no. Yeah. We'll take a minute of your time if you got it. So, Ray, when you first opened the Hotheads and you put after all those years of Subways and you put Hotheads by the Subways and later you put Rapid Fires near them both, what was your experience as you made the transition from being a single brand operator to being a multi-brand operator? What went well? What do you like about it? And what would you tell folks that are considering diversifying to multiple brands?
Well, I would just say as a multi-unit operator, and I was a Subway guy for many years, and what it did is it allowed me to understand what areas of the city had good traffic for restaurant business. And so we were able to go in and put, a Hothead either in the same plaza or nearby to a Subway. It didn't seem to be really any negative impact on the Subway, but it allowed us to have more restaurants in a smaller area using two brands. So that's beneficial as a co-branding. And also, you can have the same supervisor teams supervise two concepts. So there's some savings as far as just manpower.
Well, and Ray, I've seen it even as recently as the new Cantina opening, and Kelly, obviously, I think Kelly's still on the phone with us. Kelly's from the real estate side of the business, and it's like you as an operator, you have a lot of stores in the Dayton market. You get those inside leaks, right? That there's a property coming up or a tenant going out, but if you only had one brand, often that location's too close to something else, or you can't put more stores up in that concept. Do you feel like it's given you the ability to capitalize on all those relationships you built over the years?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, Kelly, go ahead.
The best thing I can say is, having an experienced commercial broker as part of your team when you're looking for sites is extremely important. Some of our best locations never became available publicly, never went dark where the tenant was closed. By the time they closed, a new lease was already executed. And the same thing is with new construction. By the time that building's coming out of the ground, it's already leased. You're too late. So you really have to, pay attention and, being that multi-brand operator, sometimes it is too close to an existing location or maybe too close to a competitor that you don't want to go head-to-head with. So having opportunity to do a different brand is quite the advantage.
Yeah, and Kelly, as I've learned with you, we found some great locations that there's a legacy pizza restriction or a legacy Mexican restriction, and we say we love the location, let's swap out. Let's not do a rapid fire, let's do a Hothead, or let's do a Hothead instead of a rapid fire. It gives you optionality, right?
Yep, exactly. And those the sandwich brands for those Subway people and for pizza and for Mexican, there's a lot of operators out there, so there's a lot of restrictions, and we always ask for them in our leases. I don't want a competitor going head to head with me if I can help it.
Right.
Right. And is it fair to say, I mean, I've been to the franchise meetings in the system, and again, we operate in Northern Ohio, and we're expanding into other markets, but is it fair to say that a number of your operators across Rapid Fire and Hothead have diversified to do both brands? I'm talking about franchisees who started in one brand have now crossed over and doing the other?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we have a number of Hothead franchisees that have done Rapid Fires, and and I can tell you, back a lot of my old Subway friends have done Hotheads, so lots of multi-unit operators doing multi-brands.
Got it. Well, and across the nation, we're going to talk about this now. I'm going to skip ahead. We'll drop a slide or two. I have a graphic up which was showing the Subways laid over the Hotheads, laid over the Rapid Fires in Dayton, Ohio. If you have multiple brands, you can get it done within a market and lay them in side by side. I won't go into the details of the history. You can look us up on the website, but suffice to say, Hothead's about 10 years old. Rapid Fire is about 3 years old. Combined, they have over 112 stores open in the last decade. We are looking at, for developers, we're looking at multiple formats. My team is very focused on building Rapid Fire Pizza tap rooms or Hothead Mexican Grill and Cantina tap rooms. We want to be first in the market in the big small towns and the big suburbs with the large self-pour platforms. We think there's a window of opportunity to do that, and that makes us uniquely well suited to capitalize on the 4,000 to 5,000 foot locations. Kelly's helping us negotiate a lease on a 6,000 foot kind of abandoned retail building. There are a few big, notable retail brands that have abandoned buildings through bankruptcy. With these large formats, unlike normal QSR fast casual formats, you can play in that larger building. You could also subdivide that building, and with two brands at your disposal, you can put a Rapid Fire and a Hothead in the same building. Or we have build-to-suit partnerships proposing to build us small mini centers out on retail outlots in front of daily needs grocery stores or Targets or Costco's. Controlling multiple brands, as Kelly said, gives you a chance to control the building before it comes out of the ground. And by the way, we are not fans of co-joined restaurants. I just saw yesterday the Tim Hortons Cold Stone concept. I'm not a fan of sharing a dining room per se, but getting two spaces in the same building and getting a deal with the landlord makes a lot of sense to me. And I know that a number of our area developers around the country do represent both brands based on the preference of the franchisee who comes in. And with that, I wanted to set up the concept of that. This is my words, not Ray's, but I believe we're in a race to 200 stores. Today, with 110 plus stores across the two brands, again, over 70 in the Hothead brand and 30 in the Rapid Fire brand, we're on our way to 200 stores. And 200 stores is the point that attracts a ton of attention from the private equity firms in the space and creates all kinds of opportunity for our operators and for expansion and for real estate development. So we are on the warpath to achieve that objective. And the two brands are clipping along today at about one store per brand per month. And we expect that to accelerate, and my team's going to do everything in our power to accelerate it. But you can join us literally as an area developer or franchisee directly with Rapid Fire Pizza or Hothead Burritos as an independent licensee, as a area developer, or what Subway used to call a development agent. You don't need to have anything to do with Wiley Development Group. I'm in the business of building stores. I'm in the business of co-investing with people who want to build stores. But if you've got all the money you need and you just want to control the market, have at it. The Gold States are currently areas where we have very active area developers in one or both brands. But, even in Texas, the southern couple of cities in Texas are still available for both brands. So if you have some curiosity about it, if you're looking to expand into another brand, being an area developer, you can do it with or without us. There's no strings attached. I'm inviting Ray and Kelly because they're a sponsor of what we do, and anybody who wants to engage directly with them as a franchisee or an area developer, more power to them. We will help. As an area developer, you have an opportunity for a limited amount of time to get control of a market. It does cost money. It's not free, but you can invest to buy the licenses for a market, and you can create a long-term annuity revenue stream. For anybody from the sandwich chains or burger chains that are in franchise operations, you may be familiar with how area development rights work. But essentially, as you help franchisees build stores in your market and you build and operate a minimum number of stores yourself, you share the lifetime or the royalties of those restaurants for the service life of those restaurants, so long as you continue to perform in good faith. And I'm familiar with it because my son is an area developer, and we're working to help him get stores built in his market. But if you have been in the other systems, you're thinking of crossing over, you're thinking about, and you like location selection, you like supporting store openings, but you're not so crazy about operating, maybe being an area developer with us is the opportunity for you. I would say that we all agree that, again, we're at the end of our time here, but real quick, that AUVs matter. We, as a brand, our goal is to constantly find ways to increase the average unit volume. You can see from the charts, if you inquire with us, you can get the FDDs, and you'll see that we're a brand that's nipping at that $1 million store mark. We are making the investments to cross that mark, but we're not there yet. I mean, some of our stores are. We have some very high performers, but the numbers are what they are. My goal at Wiley Development Group is to experiment with things like self-pour, with very aggressive social media campaigns, so that we can drive those numbers bigger and bigger together. The Rapid Fire brand is very similar. Again, that's why Ray said you can have supervisors oversee both brands. You can co-develop them in markets. There's really a huge opportunity for both us, for sponsored owner-operators who need the capital, for limited partners who want to get into the game in a market that's in their geographic territory, in their comfort zone, or for existing multi-unit operators who would be interested in having a capital partnership and all of this other support. So those are the 4 ways to get involved with us. Thanks for staying on after top of the hour. We will be happy to send you a handout version of the slides, and there's a little bit more detail available. We'd be happy to provide an independent briefing for you or your team. You can look us up at wileydevelopment.com. You can check us out on Facebook or YouTube. There's a large collection of the past events and other videos on YouTube. So for those of you who played along with us today, I see that almost everybody made it all the way to the end. So thanks for joining us. Have a great afternoon, and appreciate your time. Thanks, Darren, for joining us as a panelist, and Ray, Kelly, and Matt, thanks for playing along. Have a great day.